There's nothing more eye-rolling when watching a movie than the dreaded deus ex machina. This is when an unexpected, often contrived, plot device appears suddenly and resolves a seemingly unsolvable problem in the story. It can make the story feel dissatisfying because it resolves the conflict without any meaningful contribution by the characters or using the established rules of the story world. This is why it's so important to implement setups and payoffs. When setups and payoffs are used effectively, they can create a sense of inevitability and logic within a story, making the resolution earned and justified. When there's logic to the plot development, the stakes of the story feel real and the viewer is invested in the story. A masterclass in the execution of setups and payoffs is in the film JFK. In this video, we will explore how JFK uses setups and payoffs to create a sense of continuity, build anticipation and suspense, satisfy the viewer's desires, and leave a lasting emotional impact on them. And if you're struggling to write your great screenplay, click the link below to get one-on-one help from Top Development. Let's begin. The danger of making a film like JFK, which throws a mountain of information at the viewer, is that a subtle line of dialogue designed to be paid off later could be missed by the viewer. A technique that Oliver Stone uses throughout JFK is to show a character out of context, then show how they fit into Garrison's investigation later in a visual way. In the beginning of Act 1, we see Guy Bannister assault Jack Martin, but we're given just the right amount of information to pique our curiosity and wonder how he fits into the bigger picture. At the end of Act 1, when Garrison and his team discover that Lee Harvey Oswald lived at the same address as Bannister, we get a flashback visualizing their interaction. It's important to note that the discovery that Oswald and Bannister lived at the same address is done visually, by having the investigators physically in the location they're referring to. In doing so, the pieces come together in a clear way that the audience can follow. The viewer is drawn in by the realization that even seemingly unrelated scenes will reward the viewer with payoffs later if they pay close attention. When setups and payoffs create unity and continuity, they earn the audience's focus and attention, but they also help to create another key ingredient to an engaging story: anticipation and suspense. As their investigation builds momentum, Garrison's team interviews several witnesses and suspects. When watching the film, you might be tricked into thinking that the subject matter is inherently engaging, but these long interview sequences could have easily fallen into and then storytelling. Jumping from one witness to the next, picking up a new piece of the puzzle each time, straining the viewer's attention. JFK avoids boring the audience not by picking up a new piece of the puzzle in each interview, but expanding on previous information we've received, paying off what was previously set up. For example, in the first interview with the character David Ferry, we're intrigued because it's clear that this person is hiding something from Garrison and his team. We know he has some connection to Oswald, and he has cancer, but not much else. In the next scene that Ferry is interviewed, his cancer has progressed. A payoff. His circumstances have shifted, so he has less of an incentive to lie to Garrison's team. He reveals his actual connection to Oswald, re-establishing what we already knew, and then diving deeper into Oswald's powerful connections. Payoff. All of this comes to a head a few scenes later when Ferry is found dead, supposedly of cancer. But the setup from the previous scene, where he told of the powerful people involved, suggests that he was murdered. A big payoff. As the film builds more anticipation and suspense, eventually that has to be paid off in a way that satisfies the audience. A perfect example of how JFK uses setups and payoffs to create a sense of satisfaction is with the magic bullet theory. In Act 1, Garrison is sitting on a plane next to a senator. The senator suggests that the theory given by the Warren Commission that Oswald acted alone makes no sense given how many times Kennedy was shot in such a short amount of time. In Act 2, Garrison and his aide Lou go to the book depository where Oswald supposedly shot Kennedy. They try to reenact Oswald's shots with an empty rifle, and find that not only would it be extremely difficult for Oswald to shoot the president in such a short amount of time and from such a far distance, but there are trees in the way that would have made it impossible for him. This not only pays off the scene with the senator, but builds momentum towards the third act, where we get two satisfying payoffs to this narrative thread. First, we have the reenactment of the magic bullet theory, which suggests the absurd trajectory that Oswald's bullet would have had to take to hit the president if he acted alone. This payoff is satisfying because it not only expands on what we already knew, but visualizes to the viewer that all of the information they've been piecing together in their head has led to this moment, clearly proving, in the world of the film, that there were multiple shooters. Second, we get our first glimpse at the Zapruder film. While this piece of evidence wasn't set up earlier in the film, it serves as a satisfying payoff by showing the audience the actual footage of the assassination that reinforces everything we've been building towards throughout the film, that Oswald did not act alone. Whether you believe that or not doesn't matter in this context. The point is, after all the interweaving narrative threads, JFK pays it all off in the clearest way possible, satisfying the audience's desire to know the truth. At the end of the film, when Garrison delivers his long monologue about the need to hold the corrupt accountable, it has a powerful emotional impact because the film sets up what Garrison had to risk just to get to the courtroom and make that speech. The film sets up that Garrison and his wife Pat are at odds over if the investigation into Kennedy's murder is worth the trouble it brings. Garrison argues that he doesn't want his children growing up in a country where the powerful can get away with the atrocities he believes they've committed. Pat argues that, while justice is important, there's nothing more important to her than the safety of her family. On the front porch after a heated argument, Garrison's children ask him if he and their mother are going to stay together. This is a major blow to Garrison, who's fully committed to seeing the investigation through, but questions whether the ends will justify the means. Ultimately, Garrison convinces Pat that his investigation has implications that reach far beyond their family, and the world will be a safer place in the long term if they're willing to risk short-term opposition. At the end of the courtroom sequence, when Garrison is making his speech to the jury and the public at large, his family watches on proudly. No matter what the verdict is, this moment proves that all of the tribulation they'd endured up to this point was worth it. This emotional payoff has a lot to say about what is important in life, and shows the audience that the easy path isn't always the right one. Setups and payoffs are a crucial element of storytelling, especially in film, as they create a sense of continuity and satisfaction for the audience. By using setups to create a unified interwoven story, film rewards attentive viewers with payoffs that are both surprising and meaningful. By building anticipation and suspense, it keeps viewers invested in the story, while the satisfying payoffs leave them feeling fulfilled. And if you're struggling to write your great screenplay, click the link below to get direct one-on-one help from Top Development. This video was written by Ricky Ackerley, a member of the Top Development team. Thanks for watching.